doesn't matter what you go into, you're always in leadership.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're behind a camera. I don't care if you are, it doesn't matter. Somebody's looking at you to some degree.
No matter like how insecure you may think you are, or how introverted you think you are, or how poor of a job you think you did, it's always good enough because you're doing it for God. And he can, like, all we have to do is do our best and let him do the rest.
You never know how far reaching something you think, say, or do might affect, will affect, or can affect the lives of millions tomorrow.
Whether the insecurity comes from not having housing, like, let us build a house. If they don't have medicine, let's give them medicine, right? Yeah. If they just don't have access to produce or whatever, let's, partner with somebody, live in some hydroponic towers if they have the infrastructure for it, or like start a farm, whatever it is. Dr. Raul Serrano, how are you doing today, sir?
What's up, buddy? I'm good.
Thanks for being on the podcast. I feel like this has been a long time coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we're doing it now in the new setup here. I love this.
New setup. We had some delays, but that was okay because everything in timing, right?
That's right.
Timing. Yeah. So you and I went to the same high school together back
in
the day. And I was a couple years younger than you. You were like the guy in the basketball team that I looked up to. Didn't know you, not that well, because you were on varsity and I was on the freshman team at the time.
Yeah.
And then, so over 20 years went by, and one of my friends, DJ from Haji Studio, shout out to DJ out there, he was like, hey, like, I know we're filming right now, but we have a break. I want to introduce you to my friend. And I'm like, oh, cool. So you know me, I love meeting people, right?
Yeah.
So I walk out there, you turn around, and I'm like, Raul? And you're like, Marlon? And then ever since then, man, we've been connected. I mean, you're in the men's group with you now, and
absolutely, man.
Stuff.
And I think, wasn't it that same week that I had just walked into another venue where your wife was, and I'm like, and I didn't put the two together until, I don't know, like 2 weeks later.
Yeah, how wild is that? I mean, like within days, like we keep getting connected over and over and over and over again. And now here we are.
There we go, man. I love what you're doing, by the way.
Thank you.
With the podcast and with your company, man. This is good stuff.
Thank you. So let's talk about you, man. So tell all the people out there a little bit about you.
Yeah. So I'm a dad. I'm a husband.
Yeah.
I have a beautiful wife at home. I have 4 kids.
4 kids.
Yes. Whew. 4 of them. And really neat story, actually. I have three biological kids of my own, but then my oldest, which is 16 right now, she's my sister that we adopted.
Gotcha.
And it's just been awesome to take her in and see her flourish,
Yeah.
So 4 kiddos at home. I wrote a best-selling book, The 14-Day Reboot. I have a chiropractic office, more of a wellness clinic, a family wellness clinic. My wife co-founded a school. So that's called Ignite Academy.
Yeah.
And man, we also have a supplement company, but so.
You guys are doing some big things.
Yeah.
All right. So let's start off with why did you want to be a chiropractor?
Honestly, I didn't want to be a chiropractor.
Yeah.
I actually in school I was going to pre-med. I was my first year in school. I wanted to help people, and I remember in my first year in college, I am pre-med. I am walking down the lunchroom, and there was a college fair, like postgraduate kind of college.
Yeah.
And I'm walking by, and there's a little table over here, and the table had a spine, and it was a chiropractic school that was promoting themselves. And I had all of the misconceptions you ever have about chiropractors.
Yeah.
Ambulance chasers, quacks. Like that's so. But it's my first year of college, right?
Yeah.
So there was a cute girl at the table.
Oh, of course.
So I went up to the table, and I was just kind of talking to her and kind of making fun of chiropractic, sort of. And she kind of stopped me in my tracks, and was like, "Yeah, that's what most people think." But what true chiropractic is, and she goes through like how the body's created, like how God put the brain here to control everything. She goes through like, hey, if you want your heart to beat, your lungs to breathe, you have to have a good connection between your brain and your body through the nervous system. If not, it's not going to work properly.
Yeah.
So at the time, long story short, I had a lot of health issues growing up, and at the time I was still struggling with some gut stuff. And something about that conversation, literally 2 or 3 minute conversation, like struck a chord. And I was like, really? Chiropractic can help with all of that stuff? So I literally went upstairs to the library, I'm a little older than you, so I was Yahooing at the time.
I remember Yahoo. Come on, man. I'm not that much younger.
I know. I'm not Google. I'm Yahooing like chiropractic testimonies, and I see like one testimony after another.
Yeah.
And the next thing I know, I'm like, this is it. This is what I'm doing the rest of my life. Like, I want to help people this way, not covering up stuff with medication, but really getting to the root cause.
Yeah.
And that was the moment, man.
That's wild.
I love that because I think that so many times we devalue the power of a conversation. That's why I love this.
Yeah.
Because she had a 2 to 5 minute conversation. I don't remember the time, but 2 to 5 minutes with me and literally changed the whole trajectory of my life.
Yeah.
My kids' life, the thousands of families that we've now connected with or helped, like their lives look different because of that 2 to 5 minute conversation. Yep. You just never know, right? Like what the impact you can have. So
I 100% agree with you. So before I started NxtGen Network, I worked for a company called MealViewer, right? And my very first day on the job after they moved me and my family up to South Carolina, and mind you, like I am an introvert. People don't believe me when I say it, but I'm truly introverted, and even more so back then. And like I just wanted to sit in the corner and like fix a computer and not talk to anybody, right? But here I am in this sales job that I was, I think, guided towards by a higher power, but whatever. I get to the office and I look on the owner's desk, and it was a book, and I think it was called It's Not Just What You Know, and it was a book on relationships. So for some reason, I just wanted to read this book, right? And it was all about respecting every single interaction you have with every person, because you never know if you're meant to help them, they're meant to help you, or you're meant to work together, right?
That's good.
But you got to respect every single meeting, relationship, and all that. And yeah, I totally get it, man. One 2 minute conversation can change your life.
That's good, man. That's really good.
Yeah.
I love that. Actually, in chiropractic school, excuse me, there's a saying from one of the chiropractic founders. It says, "You never know how far reaching something you think, say, or do will affect, or can affect the lives of millions tomorrow." So that's I love that quote. That's one of my favorites.
That's huge. And just to go back to another story, like whenever I took that same job, I was talking to my supervisor at the time at the school district I was at, and I was like, why am I getting pushed or guided towards this job? Like, how is me leaving Land O'Lakes, Florida, gonna help me further God's kingdom? Because that's important to me, right? And he was like, Marlon, like think about it. Like right now, you're just impacting the people here within the district or the people here in Land O'Lakes. He was like, when you take this job and you're traveling around the world, and I didn't know it was going to lead to this. Like hundreds of thousands of people could watch this episode where I'm giving God the glory, and this could be the reason why I'm in this position, right? So it's crazy.
Awesome, man.
It's wild. Yeah. So why is your clinic different than others? Because I've been in some conversations or overheard some conversations about you comparing yourself to the standard clinic, or I guess maybe it's an old mentality. I don't know, but you guys seem like you're a lot different in your approach, I guess.
Yeah. I think there's two different parts to that question. I think one is just my story. Like I said, I grew up, I was sick growing up as a little kid. I was constantly on medications, in and out of the hospitals constantly. This is kind of funny to me now. But when I was a little kid, I remember the nursing team at the hospital. Yeah, they had a nickname for me, and it was Mr. Diarrhea.
Mr. Diarrhea.
I mean, I was just always dehydrated, couldn't hold food down. Like it was just like so that led to a bunch of infections and so all this stuff. So, anyways, long story short, I was really sick as a child, and then nobody ever sat my mom down or my parents and said like, hey, here are the things that we can do to actually make a difference, to make him, to help him get healthier. Yeah. So you fast forward, I'm one of the skinniest kids you're ever going to see. I'm going into middle school now. And in middle school, you didn't know me then. Yeah. But I went from being one of the skinniest kid to being one of the most obese kids in my middle school class because they said I was hypoglycemic. I used to pass out all the time. And the doctor said, you're hypoglycemic. You need to walk around with a candy bar and a juice box. Because if your blood sugar drops, you need to like fill back up, right? Yeah. So you give a middle schooler free range of candy bars and juices. Yeah,
it's going to town.
Yeah. So if you see my book, I have my picture in there. And so then from that, had my a couple years later, think back to middle school. There's bullying. There's all the things that happen, right? Hormones are changing. And I remember this day like it was yesterday. And I think this was what's impacted my practice the most. I was in the doctor's office. I had now gained this weight. They did my blood work, and they come in and they said, hey, you were hypoglycemic, which your blood sugar is low. Now you're pre-diabetic. And they looked and said, your grandparents are overweight, diabetic, cholesterol medications, heart issues, blah, blah, blah. They looked at my mom. She's already on that track. And they said, this is just in your genes. And if somebody would have sat my mom down and instead of saying that, said something different, like, hey, let's work on this stuff. I think there would have been a different outcome. But from that conversation, I remember going home.
Yeah.
And I was in my room. And I'm processing all this stuff. And in the room, as you're processing as a middle schooler, I opened up my drawer. I pulled out a tie. I fastened it to the top of my door. I put it around my neck, and I tried committing suicide that day.
Man.
And like I said...
all because of a conversation a doctor had with your mom.
Yeah. Right? And I took that in, obviously. Tie broke, snapped, hit the ground, But I look at that moment, I'm like, man, if I can make an impact in somebody's life by speaking life into them, nothing against the doctor, right? They're doing what they know what to do, right?
Yeah.
But if I can speak life into somebody, and that's when the whole chiropractic story comes in, right? I came to this lady that I don't have no clue who it is. I've actually looked up to see who that person is, right?
Yeah.
And I can't find who that was. Just to thank her because of just the massive impact she made by speaking life into me.
Yeah.
And saying, you know what? Yeah, you're struggling with this stuff, but essentially what she's saying is, what she said in that conversation was, but if you find the cause, if you dig deep enough, we find the cause, we can start getting to some healing happening, basically. And I think that's the approach we took to practice. So a lot of times, go ahead.
So the spine is a key player in health, is what you're saying.
Yeah, well, not only that, yes, yep. And what differentiates the second part to that is what you said, what makes us different in our practice is that a lot of chiropractors just still deal with pain. And that's fine. That's good. You're helping people. Pain's a big motivator for people.
Yeah.
But if that's all you're doing, you're kind of just at the tip of the iceberg there.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. We have shifted from not just, I'm not going to look at your pain. I want to be like, we want to work on your wellness. And how do you do that? Well, we do it through the neurology. Right? The neurology is what controls everything in your body. For your immune system to respond, it's a neuroimmune response. For your hormones to be in balance, it's a neuroendocrine response. Your nervous system is what triggers that. So if you're working on the response, right? Not the response, excuse me, what's making the response happen, you can see some amazing changes naturally. So yeah.
That's crazy. Like
don't get me started. I get excited, bro.
No, let's go. Let's go. But I never thought about it that way. Like I not once did I ever think that, that you call it a neuroendocrine response or
neuroendocrine. Like your endocrine system is your hormone system, your immune system. But what triggers the immune system? It's your brain and your nervous system has to trigger a response. Yeah. So let me ask you this. You're a patient in the office, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, this is where we're shifting our practice to, right? Because I just want to lean in more into that, and that's where my practice is going. But you came in, and even you're saying you haven't thought about that, and that's where we've missed the boat, right? Because what do you come in for?
Well, all right. So here's what happened. Here's what had happened was I'm working out with my gym partner Sam, right? And of course, her and I are very extra at the gym. Like we're always trying to go like above and beyond. Like we're the nutcases doing all the extra work, acting stupid in the class, right? So we're like, oh well, we should add tuck jumps into this workout. And I'm like, oh, tuck jumps, no big deal, right?
Mind you, love hate those.
Yeah, I haven't stretched or done anything. Like I'm not ready for this. Like I'm just not prepared. I do a tuck jump, and then I feel like this knot pop up in my back, like my shoulder blade. And I'm like, oh, I've not been here before, right? So typically it goes away in like 2 or 3 days. Put some Tiger Balm on it, have my wife rub it out for me, whatever, and I'm good. But I wasn't solving the root problem, right? But this did not go away, and I was in agony for must have been 2 or 3 weeks. And I was like, all right, I have to just talk to a chiropractor. And I was like, oh crap. I was like, I met Raul literally a couple months ago. Let me reach out to him. I go in, we have a conversation, we get the x-rays done, and when he showed them to me, they were the 2 vertebrae on my lower neck were close to being fused together, right? And then my spine was slightly unaligned.
You lost the curve, yeah.
Yeah, I lost curve, and I'm thinking, I remember talking to someone on your team, and she was like, were you in a car accident? And I was like, no, I've never been in an accident before. And I was like, what if it was all those years of CrossFit and not stretching and taking care of myself that probably caused an issue? But even more so, I had been sitting down at a desk for the longest time, and I'm sure my monitor was in the right place. I always slouched. My posture was not the best. Probably still isn't the best. I'm working on it with your help. But so I had the almost fused discs. I had the issue with the spine, and you got me started on treatment, and things got better. And the crazy thing is, so I have PT that I do at home, right? And that's, what is it, like the ball, and I have the neck thing, and
everybody's different, but yeah, for you it's traction, cervical traction, I think the CT pull maybe.
Yeah.
Wobble,
Yeah. And if I start to feel the knot come back again, I'm like, it's probably because I haven't done my PT in the past 2 or 3 days. Let me get back on it. But then again, my kids, like, they'll see me do it and they think it's hilarious. I mean, you do look kind of funny, right? And I turned to my son, this was literally last week. I was like, dude, I'm doing this because starting from my mid-20s and up, I'd always been sitting at a desk looking at a screen, or I had a phone in my hand, or playing a video game or whatever, right? And that's why I have text neck. Yeah. And I was like, look at you. You've been doing this since you were 3. Like, you keep laughing, this could be you in 10 years at the age of 22 having to do what I'm doing because of bad habits, not taking care of yourself. And then that got me thinking about you. I was like, this is like a family practice. Like, should I be looking at making sure my kids, like, should I be ensuring their longevity by partnering with someone like you and taking my kids in to go get checked out and all the things?
Yeah, no, 100%. And so that's where I was saying, like, we're not changing their practice, we're changing, to your point, the marketing of it, let's say, right, so to speak, like how we present ourselves. Because what happens is, to this point, we've presented, I think, a good case, like, hey, if your spine's degenerating, that's impacting your nerves, which is important, right? Your nerves control your heart, your lungs, your thyroid, your immune response, all those things. And that's huge.
Yeah.
But even more important than that is what they see now with the research that we have, what's happening to your brain, to brain development.
Oh, wow.
Right? So the easiest example I can give you is, if I have an MRI, I can do an MRI of somebody's brain, and I put a cast on your arm, right? Your brain's always wanting to preserve energy. So the areas of my brain that control my arm literally start to shut down because it's not needed. I'm not going to send energy to that area of the brain because I'm not moving the arm.
That's wild.
Right? So what happens? What does PT do? As soon as you get your cast taken off, what do? Let's move the arm, let's stretch it, let's start mobilizing. Yes, that's for the arm to get stronger, but really what you need to do and what you're doing is you're strengthening the area of the brain. If they do that MRI, as soon as you start moving it, that area of the brain that controls your arm lights up like a Christmas tree, right? Because you start getting more nutrition there, because it's like, I need that area of my brain.
Is that common knowledge? Like, how am I 39 years old and I've never heard that? But it makes total sense.
Like the last 10 or 15 years where the research is really digging into this. So it's really not common knowledge, it's what's coming out, and where health is going.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'll get back to that story, but think about health. It starts with the medical system, saying, take a medication, do this for your health, blah, blah, covering up symptoms, so to speak. Great at emergency care. Yeah. Right? If I get in a car accident, sever a leg, they can save me here in the U.S. better than anywhere because of the emergency. But it's an emergency system, not a healthcare system. So then we've transitioned from that. Most people are looking for something different. The kind of second phase is more like functional medicine or like holistic care, right? You see all these terms out there, which is good. It's better. Yeah. They're looking for causes. But the third, kind of like the deepest level of healthcare that we're going towards is neurologically based healthcare. It's working with the brain and nervous system. That's what's going to change the game, right? And then you add in the nutrition and all the other stuff, and of course. But this is why we see the miracles in our practice. Yeah. So anyway, back to the brain. So what happens is, that's how the brain works. Now you take that same concept, movement, MRI, brain, and you go to the spine for your neck. Yeah. I think it's C5 that you have. Hope you don't mind me saying it. You brought it up.
I want to show the x-rays. It's pretty crazy looking.
So when you have an area that's degenerating, almost fusing, that area is not moving. Yeah. Think your arm not moving in the cast. So if that area is not moving in your neck, the neurology that connects to all of that, all of those areas of your brain, like a dimmer switch, if we go to the light here and dim it down, that's what's happening to all the areas of your brain where that nerve or those nerves go to.
That's wild.
So when you get adjusted, if you take that MRI, literally the brain, all the different areas that connect to that C5, C6 area, which is thyroid, down your arm, chest, the vagus nerve that goes through your neck, that goes to your stomach, all of that area in your brain lights up and it starts to balance your nervous system, right? So back to your point with your kids, with technology, with their postures, with their improper movement patterns, we're seeing brains that are developing different, not optimally, with our kids. It's not about their spine degenerating. Yeah, the spine's the vehicle we're going to use to get to the brain, but that's how we're going to rebalance brains. That's how we're going to see ADHD, sensory processing disorders. That's how we're going to see all this stuff that we see, OT and PT, that kids are going to get better and go further faster with those treatments, because we're working on the brain and getting the brain healthier, better connected. So
you just blew my mind right now. That is crazy.
So that's what we're working on. So our practice, we're marketing more to that. Like, let's forget about back pain and degeneration. Let's talk about brain health, man. That's where we're going. That's what we do.
That's what I think about when I think chiropractor. I'm thinking, oh, he's gonna fix my back. That's it. Yes. It's not about the brain. It's about the back. But I had it wrong. I had it backwards.
So when we see families, that's why we see kids. That's why we see. I've seen my kid since day one.
Yeah.
Right when they come out, there's reflexes bilaterally.
Mm-hmm.
You check reflex. You get to temperature bilaterally. Like, this ear. On the doesn't matter the term.
Yeah.
You check temperature bilaterally, and if those things are off, we know the nervous system's not balanced. The brain's not balanced. So that's how we start working on them, even day one.
So interesting. I remember my first day at your clinic. I love what you do. You educate your patients too, right? So you dispel something that's about chiropractors and all that. But then the thing that stuck with me the most, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's more to this than just my back, I think it was an athlete that you were working with or something, and he had digestive issues.
Yep.
And then he went through his treatment or whatever, and he was able to poop, right? Long story short, he was able to poop again. He was constipated. And you were like, yeah, like your spine and your brain and all that's all connected, and that helped fix his digestion system. I was like, that is crazy.
But by the way, I was one of the team docs for USA Wrestling in the 2016 Olympics. Why were we on the team? They had PT guys. They had guys that were doing all the things for injury. We weren't there for injury.
Mm-hmm.
We also adjusted a lot of some of the track team athletes.
Yeah.
Why were you there? Because they know that an adjustment takes milliseconds off of the reaction time. Because when their body and brain is connected better, their brain's working better, and that's sometimes all you need. When you're at the Olympic level, it is a fraction of a second sometimes, win or loss, right? Gold or not. So that's why we were there. We're there because of the neurological impact we were having.
So, all right, this is kind of a random question, but maybe not. Esports is becoming a real thing, and these kids they train and they're on diets and nutrition plans, but they're sitting at a desk.
Yeah.
Do you see a way for chiropractors to start supporting these
100%
athletes?
100%.
Because they probably need it just as much as anybody else.
Yep.
Right.
The more you can add, the more movement patterns, proper movement you get to the body, specifically the spine.
Yeah.
The more they're activating the brain to work left and right, to connection.
Yeah.
I do some weird stuff at home just to connect my brain. We were just having this conversation the other day.
Like what? What are you doing? Now I'm curious.
I know. All right, I'll share. So we're at our friends group where we're over for dinner.
Yeah.
And we're talking about brushing your teeth.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife's like, this is a weird conversation, but you don't want to know what my husband does. And everybody's like, I'm interested now.
Yeah.
So she's like, well, he'll stand on one leg, uses the opposite arm, and then he goes into a yoga position. And then he switches opposite leg, opposite arm. And then the kicker was I do it naked. So when things are hanging around, that's a visual. You didn't need that visual.
Watching, so
you don't need that visual. But anyways,
that's funny.
Why am I doing that? I do it in the morning.
Yeah.
Opposite leg, opposite arm. I'm activating my left and right brain, so that they can start communicating, right? I get into a balance pose, which once again works on my vestibular system, my cerebellum and vestibular system, which is your balancing.
Yeah.
As we age, what do we lose? Balance.
Yeah.
You fall, you break a hip. That's the number one predictor or cause of death in the elderly, right? They don't have any core strength, no stability, and as you activate the cerebellum, your balance, left and right brain, you actually start to decrease or get your nervous system more balanced. Because one of the things we see is that too many of us, because of the life stressors we have, our system is stuck in a sympathetic stress response.
Okay.
So the more you can activate the brain, the more you get into rest, heal, and digest, or parasympathetic response. You can't be in a stress response and be in growth mode.
Gotcha.
You can't repair when you're under stress. When you're under stress, you want to run away from a tiger.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, our tigers are emails, like all the to-do lists every day.
All the meetings.
All the meetings. Those are our little tigers every day. So our nervous system gets overwhelmed with that. And guess what? Stress response, adrenal glands, neuroendocrine response, immune system goes down. Our gut. Why do we have so much gut issues? It's not because of the food. Yeah, it's food. But if you're under stress all the time, you're not digesting your food, which is you need to have a relaxed state to do that in.
Okay.
And then now we have a digestive tract. You're eating a meal in 10 minutes. You're not, like, look at other cultures. How do they eat? Around a table.
Yeah.
Hour. Italy is an hour and a half to 2 hours dinners.
Yeah.
They're just relaxing, eating all this, yummy food, but they're not having celiacs.
Yeah.
They eat pasta. What's the difference?
You're right.
Right?
You're right.
They're in a healing response, they're in a parasympathetic response, allowing that food to digest properly. We're in a stress response, we're trying to digest food, you can't do both. And I can go on that. But
So if I'm trying to reset my nutrition, I want to move to more healing, would you recommend a 14-day reboot?
Yes.
You like that segue?
Right. So I would recommend always. So if there's a hierarchy of healing, right? The bottom or like the base of the foundation is neurology. Like let's work on the neurology. Yes, the nutrition's important. I think that nutrition and exercise would be the next big component of that.
Okay.
Right. That's why I wrote the book, Nutrition.
Yeah.
And when we talk about the 14-day reboot, it's let's work on the nutrition, but don't forget the bottom part of the hierarchy there.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah, tell me about what do you want to learn about the book?
Yeah, just summarize it for me. I haven't got a chance to read the book yet.
Yeah.
I probably had it for like a year. I'm going to get to it. I may actually do it after record this podcast. I should probably just start it, and then we can have a follow up or something. That'd be cool.
So the 14-day reboot, it's basically the whole premise. I took there's keto out there. There's Whole30, there's all these different nutrition plans, and they're all great. There's benefits to all of these. There's carnivore diet now.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
So you're right, and I think I know where you're going with this, and I definitely agree with you. But when I was into CrossFit was my life.
Yeah.
Like I did paleo. That was a big diet back then. Yeah. And probably still now with a lot of the athletes out there. And I got into the best shape of my entire life ever, but it wasn't sustainable.
I know.
Yeah. I woke up one day and I had abs. It was the wildest thing I'd ever seen. Yeah.
Keep having kids, those go away.
Yeah, real quick.
So the 14-day reboot was this whole concept of hey, you can do something for 14 days.
Yeah.
Anybody can do 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks, there's a lot of cleanup that you can do for your body. So that's what it is. It's basically you take keto, a clean keto, maybe a couple differences. But you do it for 14 days. There's some supplements to go with it to clean up. But then after that, then we suggest what I call the functional or the fun plan. It's a functional nutrition plan, which I remember the easiest way to summarize that part or my book is like this. I had a talk I did at a church once.
Yeah.
And there's a couple hundred people there, and I did a 2.5 hour nutrition event. It was awesome.
Wow.
I do these events, and after the event, Q&A happened, and somebody in the middle raised their hand. That was a lot. I'm yeah, it's 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
She's like, can you just give me one thing to do? And I was taken back, out of that, all that?
One thing?
And I just came to me, I was you know what? If God made it, eat it. If he didn't, don't eat it. I didn't think anything of that comment, right?
Mic drop.
Yeah, that's it. I was that's it. I see this person, 2 months later I'm at Publix, and they walk up to me and hey, you don't know me, but I was at the event, asked this question. I'm oh yeah. And then she's I did it. I just ate God-made foods, and I took out all she's I even took a trip, and I'm at Wendy's. I'm what's God-made? Potatoes. I'm gonna have a potato,
Yeah.
And then she says, my husband's gotten off 3 medications, cholesterol, his diabetic medication, something else. She's I've lost 20 pounds. And she goes on and on. I'm it could be that simple.
Yeah.
We complicate it so much, and it's it's that simple. If you eat more God-made food, things that are, not as processed, you can heal. Your body can get better.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of so in the book I talk a lot about making it doable for your family, right? I'm a family of 4. How do you do that? So it was more the application piece of it. So
yeah, that's neat. So do you do a lot of speaking engagements?
Yes, I do.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing to talk on? Is it that particular topic?
No, actually it's not.
Uh-oh.
My favorite thing to talk about, I don't know how God even got us here, but my wife and I, we do a marriage retreat, believe it or not. Yeah.
Okay.
And that is my favorite by far. It's a whole weekend retreat that we do. And man, I just love the impact that it has.
Yeah.
Because it impacts everything else.
Yeah.
Right? When you have two couples that come together and are able to communicate, and we have a framework, we call it the refresh.
Yeah.
And it's a 5-step framework that we take couples through. We should do that. I think that would be a good podcast. Like just go through that
I was
framework.
literally thinking that.
Go through that framework. That's a whole nother. But
we could do a whole series on that. Bring our wives on, have a couple conversations. I mean, that could be a lot of fun.
Yes. So that's my favorite thing to talk about. Yeah.
Okay.
So we do whole weekend events for that.
Neat. Talk to me about what you did with the internship at the chapel.
Yeah. If people don't know the chapel internship, man, they take high school students and college students actually, and they go through like a whole leadership program. My daughter, this was her first year. I taught last year, and yeah, I taught a leadership in the workplace class, right? And I love that because leadership doesn't matter what you go into, you're always in leadership.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're behind a camera. I don't care if you are, it doesn't matter. Somebody's looking at you to some degree at your home. So that's what I did. I taught leadership in the workplace.
That's awesome.
And I think leadership's everything. I love it, man.
Yeah. And speaking of behind the camera, we have shout out to Callista Fotopoulos. She's actually from the internship program, so she was in my capstone class.
Yeah. So tell me what you were doing there, because we didn't cross paths there. We
didn't, but we saw each other. That was one of those extra connections that we had just randomly within a certain period of time, which is cool. But so I co-led the capstone project for the interns, and so my partner in that, she's so much smarter than me, Elisha. She's she's the real deal. I'm just a guy that made a bunch of mistakes that I can now teach the kids not to make. But anyway, so they came in and their whole project was to come up with a solution to an idea and then pitch it to a group of sharks. So it was all themed after Shark Tank.
Oh,
right?
That's awesome.
So it was a multi-week program, and the kids, we walked them through the entire entrepreneurship process, right? So Elisha was more of an entrepreneur, I'm more of an entrepreneur, but we married them both together. It was something beautiful with the students. If one thing I used to always say was I learned by trial and error, because I never had anybody to mentor me to prevent me from making some of the wrong decisions that I made. I ended up learning from them, but it would have been so much better if I learned ahead of time instead of making the mistake. But these kids, they're getting some top tier leaders from the community, from large, small organizations, sports teams. I know that they did something with the Orlando Magic once. These kids, they're getting some true leadership. But at the end, they pitched their idea to the panel of sharks, and we literally filmed it like Shark Tank, and it was super cool. And Callista was one of those students, and there's so much talent in those classes, and then when I saw her, I was like, "There's something special about her. I'm gonna poach her after this is all done." Which a great place to find talent.
Well, it's funny you say that, because one of my team members came from the internship as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, Pastor Q always says the chapel is not just a place you go to; it's a place you go from.
Yeah. And
we're taking people from the chapel and we're putting leaders in the marketplace, which is the plan.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun. Yeah. So you do supplements also too, right?
We do.
Yeah.
Yep. We have a small supplement company. Our flagship product is collagen. I remember it took me 3 years. There was a time, I won't name brands on here, but I had a pretty big brand that I used to really promote and have in my office, and that brand got bought out by Nestle.
Did they ruin it? Did they ruin it?
Well, once I went back to try to find the sourcing of it, I couldn't find the sourcing, right? And that's just something to sit right. And then, a few months later, I saw that there's some reports that came out that said that, hey, there's some potential toxicity in this brand, blah, blah, blah. So at that point I said, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
There has to be a way to find the source, the best sourcing for collagen. That's kind of the big product that we recommend, because it supports joint health, and there's the United States, we're just so deficient in collagen, right? If you look at other countries, like they'll have animals and they'll like break down the bones in their soups, and they have soups, and they put that. We don't do that. We throw away the bone, the skin, all the good stuff. We throw it away.
My family's Jamaican, and in Jamaica they eat the bone.
Like, oh, for sure. Puerto Rico, you go to Asia, you go to. So yeah. So anyways, so we're so deficient in it. I want collagen for my kids. I used to put collagen in I put it in the rice and all that stuff, like as it boils. So I went on a 3-year journey to find like the purest, best collagen I could find. So we did that, packaged that up, and that's our kind of our flagship product. It's called Clean Collagen. Okay. The website's life.re, life.re, and yeah. So
is it pretty? Like, how did you get into doing that? Like, just go, I'm gonna create my own supplement. Let me just go ahead and.
When you want something good for your kids and your family, man, you'll just stop at nothing. Like I said, I was just tired. Like when, as an entrepreneur, sometimes you're just tired of relying on other brands and other people and failing. And you're like, you know what? I don't want to build a huge supplement company. That's not my thing.
Yeah.
But I want something good for my kids.
Yeah.
And then once I had it for my family, I'm like, okay, I'll sell it to practice, and then other practices wanted it, and other people wanted it. So it just kind of it's like slowly grown, but and we've got a couple of things now, but really the flagship is collagen. Okay.
So speaking of you being all over the place and doing some really cool stuff, what's up with this YouTube channel that you have out there?
Yeah. There's a drserrano.me YouTube channel. I did a little mini series.
Yeah, I saw some episodes.
Yeah, so basically I would go to. I asked my patients, hey, what do you want to know about health, or what do you want to kind of look into?
Yeah.
And things like hydrocolon therapy came up. Things like hot works came up, and bar classes. So anyway,
bar class was awesome.
So I became the guinea pig, basically. I would go out to these places and film it with some friends or whoever, and kind of go through the experience and then give my take on it. Hey, here's the health benefits that you can get out of this or gain or not. So
what did you get out of bar class?
Bar class was a lot harder than I thought.
I could tell by watching.
The core strength that you need. So you said earlier, we sit all day. We plop into these chairs.
Yeah.
And as soon as you plop, all your core muscles are just relaxed, right? Mm-hmm. If you go over to countries that have, actually, we should talk about our trip to Kili.
I was going to, don't worry.
We're taking a trip to Africa, to Kilimanjaro here soon, and you see how they sit. It's stools on the ground or sitting. They don't have these plop down chairs, so guess what? Their core strength is awesome because they're always activated. Like when you're sitting on the ground, you have to activate your core.
Yeah.
Right?
I hate sitting on stools.
I do too, because our core, because I know it's something I have to work on constantly too.
Yeah.
So bar class really showed that. Showed how much I should continue working on my core.
So would you say bar was more challenging than yoga? I know it's all personal.
Yeah, it's totally different. But yoga's there's different yogas, by the way. I mean, so it's hard to say that. Mm-hmm. But it was definitely difficult.
Yeah, I remember when I was big into CrossFit again. They were starting to do yoga at the same studio, and I was like, I'm not gonna do yoga. That's weak, right? And then one of my friends got me to do it, and it was so humbling. Yoga's no joke, and I'm sure bar is just as difficult, if not more difficult. But then it made me think about it. It's like this, building this base will make me a better athlete, and I need to do it. And it's almost like what you're talking about with the medical stuff. Your brain is important. Support and build the base to create longevity for the rest of your life.
Yep, brain and nervous system. You do that, you could build so much around that health-wise, right?
Yeah.
Kilimanjaro, man.
Yeah, so when are we going? What do I have to do to get in shape to survive this thing?
Yes. So February 2025, I am leading a trip, a group up Kilimanjaro.
Okay.
Raising funds for Man Up and Go. It's an organization that I'm on the board on.
Yep.
And we take care of foster families. We take care. The goal of the organization is we want a father for every child. There's so many issues when it comes to fatherlessness.
Yep.
And so many things that we see, and we want to help that problem. We want to correct that.
Yeah.
So raising funds for that. We have the trip. What does it take? It takes a lot of walking. I don't know that you can train enough to actually, unless you're we live in Florida.
Yeah.
So there's nothing we can do here in Florida that can prepare us for what we're going to experience on the mountain. We could just be in shape, but at the end of the day, it's how your body responds to altitude.
Yeah. Is it more of of a walk? Or
Yeah,
is
it's
it
a
more
hike.
like a hike?
It's a hike.
Okay.
It's a intense hike. But as you get into altitude, it just beats you up. Like we had a guy who had been through BUDS training 3 times,
Oh wow.
and he struggled. I struggled.
Man.
And then we had some other guys that you're like, huh, I'm in a lot better shape than them. But they were fine because they live in the mountains or something. You know what I'm saying? So it just depends on how the mountain hits you. But it's awesome. Like it's doable, but it's also the hardest thing you're gonna do in your life.
I love that.
And I remember coming back and my wife saying, because in the trip it's 6 days, right? 6 days up the mountain, or 5 days up, 1 day down. But every night we're around the mess hall.
5 days up, 1 day down?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's because you got to acclimatize. You got to go up and down, you get acclimated.
Gotcha.
But I remember those conversations. Like there's no cell phones. You're away from technology. It's you, the mountain, and the people you're around, and with the conversations we had around like spirituality, your walk, as a father. Like my wife said, you came back a better husband, a better father, a better leader from this trip.
Wow. Is it a guys only trip?
That one was. Now it's co-ed.
Okay.
We're under the as an organization. If a female can get up the mountain,
yeah,
she's pretty badass. She could go.
It's
okay.
So, I don't think Ashley would let me go without her. She would definitely want to come on this. She would.
So no, it's co-ed trip, but still just the conversation you have and what happens physically, mentally, and spiritually. By far, it's life changing.
So how can people learn more about the trip and maybe to become a sponsor?
Yep, they could go to manupandgo.org, and they could become a sponsor. They can look up the trip.
Yeah.
We'll have several calls that are be kind of interest calls if people are interested in it, and then we can connect them to the trip.
How big is the typical group, or like what's your target?
We had 13 in ours, and now 12 to 13 I think is pretty good size. They've had 5 in one trip. They do it every 2 years.
Okay.
I went on the first one, and then I haven't gone since. So now I'm actually going to lead one. So I would say about 12 participants.
What does it take to get out there? Like, what's a flight like? Where do you guys fly into? And
every trip's been different. Just depends on the flight's, cost and schedule at the time. But ours was here to, I think it was Atlanta, Amsterdam maybe, Amsterdam. Someplace in Africa and then Tanzania. I don't know. So
yeah.
So
Tanzania is on my list. Like
that's where the mountain is, man. That's
dying to go out there because we want to do let me correct myself. We are going to do a documentary on food and culture and the impact of culture on food. But everywhere we go, we want to fight food insecurities. And I get this kind of from my mom and my grandmother. But like whether the insecurity comes from not having housing, like let us build a house. If they don't have medicine, let's give them medicine, right? If they just don't have access to produce or whatever, let's partner with somebody, live in some hydroponic towers if they have the infrastructure for it, or like start a farm, whatever it is. But Tanzania is on my list because they have some struggles there, right?
Yeah, well, not only that, I think your organization, you would love this trip because it's a 2-week trip, right? And the first week is climbing the mountain, raising funds, but then the second week we team up with we meet with our ministry partners that we have over there in Uganda in that area, and one of our main core ministries over there is the Man Up program called Amped. And what we do is we take them through a year discipleship program. The first 6 months it's like, hey, how do you become the man God's called you to be in the home? Right, because we're fighting fatherlessness, and a lot of these men don't understand how to be a father. Then the second half, if they pass the first half of the 6 months, the second half is how to be build a business, a biblical business. And then we give them a loan, a micro loan at the end to start a business. So like the Shark Tank, they actually pitch us, hey, this is what we're going to. So now we're going back and meeting and seeing like the fruit of what they're doing. And like you see these guys like all sorts of creative stuff. Like I don't know, I can't even think of the business, but now they're supporting their family, right? When we're not just handing things out, right? They're supporting their family and their communities. So we get to see all that and talk to them and I don't know, maybe interview them if you want.
Dude, that'd be awesome. I would love to get involved with that. It's not like you're not just teaching them how to fish or giving them fish. You're like empowering them to, go out and fish and do it the right way. That is really neat. I would love to get involved with that.
Yeah, man.
That's fun. Especially like thinking about like the business aspect of it, like entrepreneurship. I love being an entrepreneur. Like, I would love to share my passion and like how I did it with them. That'd be super cool.
Yeah. So that's the trip. It's a 2-week trip. First week on the mountain. Second week we go and we visit these men, and then we have the school week support over there and stuff like that. And yeah, man, it's awesome.
Yeah. So what's safety like over there? Like, is that one of those areas where it's dangerous to be a Christian?
No, we're pretty open about it. In Uganda, there is a big Muslim population, but it's not like a hostile population. You know what I'm saying? It's not like that. So no, it's safe. Nobody's ever had any issues. We have great ministry partners. We have churches and pastors that we're connected with, and all that. So
I have to ask, how's the food out there? I'm a foodie. I love to eat. How's the food out there?
I will say that when you're on the mountain, the food's amazing, but I don't know if it's amazing because I'm so hungry.
You're hungry, because you just burned 5,000 calories.
Correct. So like every night, like when you're like, we have porters, right? They bring all the food, they cook for us. Like we do it that way.
That's cool.
Like we do it where it's like, we want you to get to the top. Not everybody gets to the top, by the way.
Yeah.
Not everybody makes it.
Oh, yeah.
You know this right now.
Yeah.
So we do everything possible to help us make it, but they like the soups, and it's just like phenomenal. But like I said, it could be that I'm really hungry.
All right, Raul. I am convinced I need to go to I need to go to Africa and do this Kilimanjaro trip with you. I would love to help you guys. Of course, I want to get back, but to tell the story and talk to these people out there and capture your stories, or the people out there hiking their stories, that would be amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. We'll sit down and talk about it. I love that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So
I got my first sign up, guys. First person to come in. I like that. I love this.
I love to be first. I
think that's why we get along.
Yeah, right.
By the way, let me just finish this. In high school, I was, you said you were kind of where we started. You said you looked up to me or whatever.
Yeah.
I was a lot like you though, man. Growing up, introverted.
Yeah.
But God's put us in a position to have an influence, to be leaders, and I don't think it's by coincidence, man. What I see in you and what you're building here, it's your humbleness, man.
Yeah.
And that's how you serve. You come out of that. I've served from there, and it's just like it's lights out, So,
yeah, absolutely.
So I thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for who you are, and being open about who's really working through you. So.
That's right. It's all kingdom business, and it's cool just thinking about that. No matter like how insecure you may think you are, or how introverted you think you are, or how poor of a job you think you did. Yeah. It's always good enough because you're doing it for God, and He can all we have to do is do our best and let Him do the rest. And I live by that. I live by it.
Love it, man.
So how can people get a hold of you? How can they get your book? How can they go check you out for any sort of chiropractic services?
Yeah, books on Amazon, or you can go to the website, the14dayreboot.com. My local practice, Ignite Chiropractic and Wellness. IgniteChiropractic.com. And then personally, drserrano.me is a website where they can find out more.
Cool. Hey man, I appreciate your time coming down and educating everybody out there for what you do for the community and for the kingdom.
Thank you.
All right, man.